You've spent the better part of your life worrying about other people, just agonizing over what they're going to think about you, about the judgment of you, about calling you out on things that you just are too frightened to hear. So, on this week's episode of Natural Mojo, let's talk about flipping the switch on the good opinion of other people. My name's Pamela, and before we get started on this oh so important topic, I want to let you know about my recent book, 80 Things Not to Give a Flying Fig About and What to Do Instead. And it really goes nicely with this topic that I'm talking about this week that plagues so many people. I will call it the epidemic of the ages because we live in a society that really benefits from us staying small, staying in our place, staying silent, and just swallowing whatever is thrown our way. So the silent masses, the undulating masses full of confidence and self-esteem issues will buy just about anything. So let's talk about that and dive in, okay? And one more thing. I'd also like to introduce you to a daily newsletter that I just started called Daily Mojo. And here's why this is so important. You know how they talk about building a community and how important community is? Well, this is a different type of community. This is a community where you are receiving information from me every single morning before you start your day to help you get into the energy and the mindset of what you need to go do to navigate through the jungle in your life, the jungle of your everyday life, the jungle of your thinking, the jungle of going to work, the jungle of navigating through work, just navigating through your life. So Daily Mojo, the link is in the bottom as well as the book link. Okay, so let's get started. What do I mean about the epidemic of the ages when it comes to our confidence and our self-esteem and the good opinion of other people? Well, here it is. We are emotional creatures, and I don't care how brilliant you are or how many letters you have behind your name, you are an emotional being. We don't like to do anything as much control, self-control, as we believe ourselves to have. We don't do anything unless we feel like it. Whether we feel compelled to write the book, compelled to lose the weight, compelled to have a great relationship, it's all incumbent on how we feel. You know, isn't it irritating when you hear, especially if you're a parent and your child says they just don't feel like it, and you want to be rational about things. You want to reason them into why they should do things. But here's the thing. People can't be reasoned out of things that they weren't reasoned into in the first place. And the reason that they weren't reasoned into things in the first place is because we are emotional beings. We feel things first. We will have all the facts and we will have all the data, and we will still make that decision based on how we feel. It's why it's difficult to lose the weight. It's why it's difficult to have really great relationships. It's so difficult for a lot of things that we are meaning to do because we know logically, somewhere deep in our brain cells, we know logically it's a thing to do. But why aren't you doing it? And if you're honest with yourself, it's because it's not that you were a stupid person. It's because you don't feel like it. And because we're emotional beings, logic and reason isn't going to change our minds. Look at all the evidence they have about why you shouldn't smoke or shouldn't drink. Yet people continue to do this, right? Logic isn't the way to get out of it. The only way to shift ourselves is through an emotion. Now, the reason why you're not moving forward in your life is because, well, fear. And we say we don't have confidence. And yes, okay, so if you want to smash it together and say confidence is about getting yourself to do things. If I wish I was as confident as her. I used to say when I see people doing things I always wanted to do. But I've come to realize what the true matter of the situation was. And the true matter here was I was too invested in what other people thought. I felt that their judgment of me was correct. All of these strangers somehow knew me better than I knew myself. And I've talked about this topic many a time. This is not a new topic, and you've read all kinds of books on it. Even you've gone to the training and the master classes and the retreats on this. So this is nothing new. But I still don't think we understand what it is that we're dealing with. People, they try to reason us into it, why we should be confident, why we should go after our goals, why we should do all the things that we should be doing. And you can't should all over people. You can't should anybody into anything. They have to come to this realization alone. That's why hanging around, and I gotta say, hanging around someone like me who's willing to talk to you every day until you see the light of what I'm talking about. And then that drops into your emotions. I kept myself back for years. I created so many pieces of work. I'm sure half of it is just crap, but that's not the point. The point was I created so much stuff and I wouldn't let anybody see it. I remember my mother telling me, how come you don't tell anybody about the fact that you play the piano or the accordion or the bass violin or all the things that you know how to do? Because I was invested heavily in how people judged me. And that emotion of those eyes on me just tearing me down and ripping everything apart. I was just so heavily invested in that and felt that the life will escape my body if people criticized me. We are so fiercely subject to criticism from strangers. And yes, our friends too, but on a broader scale, especially for entrepreneurs out there who's trying to put out some really good work out there, we are highly invested in what people think. Like years ago, I wouldn't sit out here making this video because there are people walking by watching, wondering what the heck is she doing over there? What is she doing? Now, should that keep me from doing this video? It would have won, because I would have been too embarrassed, too shy, to all the words that we give this and label this as, because we don't want people to point and talk about us. Well, my dear, whether I sit here or not, people are going to point at me and tear me apart anyway, just because I exist. People look for reasons to indulge and engage in this, all right? It's part of their emotional makeup as well. We as humans have this thing about us where we take some type of deep, dark pleasure in tearing people apart, in gossiping about people, of running them down. And then we get into clusters and we talk about people behind their back, right? We will smile at them. The minute they leave the space, boom, there we go. Look at how she was dressed. Look at her makeup. Look at her hair. Did you see what she wrote? Oh my God, she thought that book was going to actually go somewhere. How terrible it was. I can't believe I spent my money on it. Or did you see her boyfriend? Or did you see where she's living? Did you see this? On and on it goes. And then you wonder why your vibration is so damn messed up. Well, look at the energy you're pouring into other people. You're actually pouring it into yourself. When you are so busy digging away and tearing away at other people, you are digging away at your good vibe. All right? So that's why you were afraid to go out there, because you know how the world attacks, because you do it. You tear people down. So you're not going to put yourself out there. You're not going to put your neck on the chopping block because you've done it to other people. So the first order of business is to consider stop tearing other people down. Do you want people to do this to your good work? Do you want people to do it to you or to your children or to anybody you love and care about? I'm thinking the answer is no. So when I am speaking to the subscribers on the Daily Mojo, for instance, I'm giving them a daily mission that they will steep themselves in this discomfort. And it's going to feel messy, it's going to feel ugly, it's going to feel a whole host of things. But you have to acclimatize yourself to it. We're not used to acclimatizing ourselves to discomfort, especially in our Western culture. We're so busy coddling ourselves up and being comfortable and making sure that we're hiding, that nobody ever has a bad word to say to us. But here's the reality of it. People will always find something to talk about. And now that they have the internet, they'll are looking for things about you in your past. The higher you rise, the more you rise, people are going to come looking, because they don't have the fortitude within themselves to do what they want to do. So they're going to have to tear you down. And that's why it's great to hang out with people who are on a mission. People like myself who are on a mission. I understand what it's like to be torn apart, talked about, discredited, all of the above, and probably more that I'm not even aware of. But still going out there and doing it anyway. This is about going out there, having the knowledge that you are here to do the good work that you're appointed to do, and doing it anyway, keeping your head down and going forward, knowing that people are going to laugh and point and make fun and ridicule and drag down and tear apart. I know this about myself. Everything that I now create and put out there, I know people are going to find a reason to tear it down, and I have to make it okay. All right. So actually, I flipped it on its head and I say, okay, I wonder how many derogatory things people can find about this today, or how are people going to find a way to discredit me today. It's not that I go looking for problems or looking for trouble, but I get it. It's human nature, right? I can't expect humans to act any differently than what humans are capable of doing. right? I'm not, I'm human too, and I criticize and judge people when I see some things sometimes, but I'm getting better at it because now that I've put myself into the forum, I've stood down a lot, and a lot of that criticism from my part was because I wasn't doing what I wanted to do. People who have a crazy amount of time to tear people down is that they're not living into their potential. They're not living their dream. They're not creating what they have to create. Even if it's an ugly baby, go out there and create as many ugly babies as you can possibly make until you get really good. And let people talk about it. And every time someone talks about it, make note. Oh, they said my grammar was bad. Let me write that down. Ooh, they really didn't like the cover. Look to juvenile. Ooh, let me write that down. And write it all down. You are a researcher investigating your results. How are you going to find things out if you don't go out there? You want people to rip it down so you can make it better, right? If no one's ripping it down, it's because, well, you didn't do anything. You didn't put anything out there, nothing to rip apart. So if you intend on living your life in the shallow cave, trying not to have people discredit you, people criticize you, people judge you, people gossip about you, people tear you down, it really isn't much of a life at all. You're just going to cross the finish line trying not to be seen. And well, if that's okay with you, well, okay, but you're not the one I'm talking to here. I'm talking to the people that are just about to go and they want to wait and they just need somebody who understands that. Well, that's me. I'm holding myself up as that leader and that light to take you through. So the link for Daily Mojo is there. You need this conversation daily. You can't go to a retreat and 3 months later expect to still be in the energy and the vibration of it all. The vibration has to be a constant. It's like hitting a nail, slowly hitting a nail until it goes all the way through. All right, I'm that sort of hammer hitting these points to you until it finally sinks in to your emotional center. This is not about logic and reason, because if we actually did what our logical brain was telling us to do, we'd have gotten through on some things already, right? So this is about getting to our emotional centers that will allow us to make the moves we know we need to make. I know that which I'm talking about. I'm not an unintelligent person. I'm highly intelligent, but I couldn't get myself to make those moves because I was too busy worrying about the good opinion of other people. Now's my time. It got through. So I encourage you. I almost implore you, especially for those of us that are past our prime and, we're heading into those senior years. There's not a whole lot of time to sit around trying to think this through. There is no thinking it through. You have to feel your way through and to have really good, solid conversations about this and practice, and steep yourself in to the conversation of criticism and judgment. Let people criticize you. Give them something to talk about, right? Like Bonnie Raitt says, let's give them something to talk about. My grandmother always used to say, people are going to talk about you. Give them something to talk about. So everyone's going to look at you. Give them something to look at. All right? So I sort of throw the gauntlet down in front of you. People are going to talk about you. Give them something to talk about. Give them something that you're going to be proud of, something, and maybe something that's going to turn into a business and make you some cash. Okay? So again, follow me at mojoresources.ca, and there's some links at the bottom that I talked about my book, 80 Things Not to Give a Flying Fig About and What to Do Instead, and the Daily Mojo Club. Let's move through this jungle together. And I'll see you next week on our next episode of True Mojo. Folks, it's been a pleasure. I think I'm getting better at doing these shows, but I really want you to understand that you've got one life to live, and one day all of this is going to be no more. Right? You're just going to pop out. Do you really want to get to the end of your days when you are no longer able to move, or maybe dementia has set in, and your one big regret is that you never went for it? Right? Let's go for it together. I'll see you next week. Bye-bye.